Okay, good. Okay. Okay, welcome to the Connected Networker podcast show. My name is Barry Kopus. I'm the host and producer of this show, which interviews CEOs, networking organizations, authors, and influencers. Today, I have a very special guest, Robert BUTWIN, and we actually met at a networking event, Network After Work. And I'm just going to let you know a little bit about Robert. Robert BUTWIN grew up in a family of successful business people and self-made millionaires. Early in his business life, he made a crucial decision to leave behind all the country club smart ways of his business upbringing and pursue the more personally satisfying, financially secure profession of network marketing. He entered the network marketing field on a part-time basis 37 years ago. After recognizing his potential and learning the ropes, he became a full-time network marketer. He is psychologically unemployable and has not worked a job since September 7th, 1990. Robert's successful career has earned him the respect and admiration of colleagues throughout the profession. He's been associated with several MLM firms and each time became one of their top income earners. Robert is active in leadership roles with several organizations, including the Social Networking Association, which is the industry professional organization. In 2009, he was honored by being inducted into the MLMIA Hall of Fame. He has been a contributing writer for many professional trade journals, a host on different webinars, is the author of the best-selling book, Street Smart Networking, and has produced many CDs. He has traveled to Europe and Asia many times, sharing his insights and wisdom to help entrepreneurs accelerate their success. He is a wizard at networking, a strategist for entrepreneurs who can help transform your vision into reality. His superpower is connecting people and helping entrepreneurs discover their blind spot. Robert and his wife Bonnie live in the beautiful wine country of Northern California. He walks his talk, living an incredible lifestyle that includes lots of relaxation and spending time with his three grandsons. Welcome to the podcast, Robert.
Thank you, Barry, and I'm really grateful to be here and sharing some insight and wisdom of things I've learned over the years.
So you mentioned that you were in network marketing, and I guess that's an area I've also been in past too, and that's one kind of type of business you definitely have to network, right? Network generally to get people to get involved with your company.
Exactly. I mean, when I started 37 years ago, we practiced what we call the 3-foot rule. In fact, I looked at a guy that was a 70-year friend of my mom's. She actually introduced him to me last year, and I had a nice conversation. He sent me his whole library. But I looked at him as a model, even though I didn't have a direct connection with him, because I was really inspired based on what he did. He brought Lou Holtz, which at the time was a pristine football coach, to the University of Minnesota to coach their team, which at the time was not a very good team. But everything that he did, he was like, in my mind, the grandfather of networking. His name is Harvey McKay. His book is Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty. Now, I'd like to add to that title, if I were writing it, I'd say, don't stop digging until you hit gold or water, because one person that you meet when you're networking can change your life. I know it has myself. I mean, just think, and I know even yourself, Barry, think of the people you've met along the way because of when you're networking that have had a significant positive impact in your life.
And so could we say that network marketing in the past has been sort of in the corporate world somewhat? And so you kind of basically left that corporate-like world into self-employment or just doing things on your own?
I left the corporate, the corporate world. Our family started the high school war cheerleading jacket business. And quite often, if you're working a job, first of all, you're trading time for money and you've settled. And so I came to the realization that if I wanted to create the kind of lifestyle that I really wanted, I wanted to be in a business model that was based on leverage, because we've all heard what J. Paul Getty used to say, I'd rather make 1% of 100 people's effort than 100% of my own effort. So I wanted to be involved with a model that had leverage in it, and that would, if I became successful, based on helping other people become successful. See, most of the biggest challenges you have in network marketing is other people's perception. They think it's about trying to sell products. Now, you're the product, the company, whatever company that you might represent, obviously they need to have exceptional products, but they do. All you are is like a representative. You're like an affiliate of them, and it's got a leveraged business model. See, I've stated on stages many times, if people really understood that business model, everybody would be involved with it, but not everybody's involved with it. They'd find a good or great company that had exceptional products. And again, everything that we do as entrepreneurship is based on two things. It's how we educate people and how we influence people. Even in network marketing, it's how you network and marketing. There's independently of one another. For example, in the early stages, I was instrumental, and there's stories behind it, of course, 65 million cassette tapes going into the marketplace. I'm a marketer, but I'm a networker. So when I saw network marketing, it logically made sense, because that whole business model is based on helping other people succeed.
And how did you come to write the book, Street Smart Networking? Did you take a lot of that from your network marketing days?
Early on, a guy that I met who happened to be a really good ghostwriter. I mean, he's a great ghostwriter. And he suggested, and he told me the benefits of why people create a book. First of all, you're able to put your insight and perspectives into a book in a concise manner. But, the reality of it is I wanted to share the wisdom that I had gained. And actually, someday I'm going to come back and rewrite, sort of like the E-Myth Revisited. I'm going to come back and rewrite, the sequel, which would be Network Marketing Revisited, because obviously this, with everything going on in the marketplace today, it's changed. Since when I got involved, there was no Google, there was no Apple, there was, a lot of the things that exist today weren't there when I started. So, but the foundation of networking is there, and the foundation of everything that I've learned in marketing is there. It's just, you're going to take that and figure out how to break through the noise, make real connections, educate people and influence people. That's really what it's, what things are about. Everything is how we are able to influence, coming from educating and helping people understand how we can help them.
And another thing that's been said too is that people think that when they write a book, they're going to get rich and wealthy, which is not the case. The book is kind of a seed planting tool, or some kind of tool to showcase authority or expertism on a certain topic.
Exactly. It's just one form of a digital piece. It's really a business card. The book is my business card. That's why I haven't really been into a rush to revise it, because I'm much more of an auditory person. I'd rather be on a podcast, be on somebody else's podcast. To me, having your own podcast like you doing, as you found out, there's a lot of work that goes into that. I like to work smart. My book was Street Smart, everything I've learned and everything that I share with people. And that's the only reason I stay as involved as I am today. You mentioned that we met originally at one place, but since we met, besides the fact that which is a secret sauce of doing a one-on-one, we've probably run across each other at least 2 to 3 dozen times in other networking events, because again, I know that you and I think very similar. The fact is, how can we help other people unless we're doing it ourselves? So I love everything what networking's about. I mean, I see so many people that are networking that are making mistakes. They're just focused on the transaction. They don't think about the one-on-one, booking the meeting within the meeting, because that's where the magic happens. It's getting to know the person. Normally when I have the meeting, I've come up with an acronym, which is USC. And that's not the college in Southern California. But USC stands for the U is understand who you're speaking with, and that happens in the one-on-one. The first thing that I do when I start a one-on-one, I lay out the groundwork. I say, there's 3 things I'd like to accomplish today. Number 1, I'd like to get a better understanding of who you are. Second of all, I want to figure out how I could be of service or value to you. That's where the S is, USC. And third, ultimately, I'd like to figure out if there's a way that we can collaborate. I might refer people to them. They might refer people to me. If I do something in that one-on-one that is going to be meaningful and insightful to that person, I've got a better chance of them referring people. So again, we've heard the saying that your net worth is in direct relationship to the value of your network. So where do you start increasing the value of your network? In the one-on-one. And I tell people, the one-on-one is sort of like dating. It's like, why do you go out on a date? To see if you want a second date. It's where the beginning or the foundation of that relationship starts.
And so you've attended a lot of networking organizations virtually, but have you also attended a lot of in-person events? And do you see differences between the approaches people make in person versus virtually?
The answer is I've attended a lot of events, and not everybody's going to necessarily agree with the strategy that I did. I mean, the foundation's the same, but when I would go to an event, because I could always buy the recording of the whole event and gain the knowledge. So what I would do is I would always be outside the room with people that I met at the event. Again, similar, because again, it's all based on getting down deep and understanding people, connecting with people. We're in the relationship business. It's relating with people, because people like yourself, myself, people that are out there doing, the work and being the shining light and setting the example for other people to follow. Because again, we're more authentic when we're sharing with people what really works. One of my pet peeves, and I see a lot of people oversell and underdeliver, I'm a salesperson, but I don't look at myself as a salesperson. As far back as I can remember, people told me I could sell ice to Eskimos. I've never tried. I believe I could, but again, it's how we influence. Where are we guiding people? How are we helping people? Being of service and value. How are you connecting with people? Again, networking is like opening a bank account. You need to make deposits before you can make withdrawals. So show up and be of value to other people.
And I've also heard too that people have talked about when you meet somebody that you've never met before, ever, a stranger, you need to find out about that person versus start talking about yourself, because you're interested in tell me about you, Robert, a little about your life or your hobbies, your interests and whatever. And after you tell me about you, you might say, okay, I told a lot about you now. Tell me about you, Barry.
Yeah.
It goes 2 ways.
Well, again, if the person's conscious, they're going to, after you found out about them and you really, dug fairly deep, and that goes back to the U and the USC, understanding, doing the proper exploration, the chances are they'll ask you about, what you are. And again, I believe in simple, profound messaging. I like to keep it very short. I tell people I'm a professional networker, a strategist, and a marketer. Because again, I want to have strategies that will help people elevate and accelerate their success. The similarities of what worked in the past, many of the things still work in the future, but you've had to refine to some degree, figuring out how to incorporate social media. It's like I run on Thursday for a group called Landing Big Whales, a networking group, which you should show up and, happy to have you on stage. Clubhouse is just another platform. So that's every Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Central, Landing Big Whales. I'll be there as one of the moderators. And again, that's a great platform to meet other like-minded entrepreneurs.
And would you say, like, because we've had this terrible crisis in the last 2 years, and a lot of businesses weren't prepared for this crisis that shut down their businesses, and they really didn't know much about virtual networking or going online and getting business another way outside their brick and mortar store, and they had a hardship with that.
Well, And unfortunately, and the answer is yes, that happened because a lot of people were not thinking about pivoting, how to shift based on the elements. It's like I grew up in the Midwest in Minnesota, and obviously when there was a big snowstorm, we had to adjust based on the elements of everything that's happening. And quite often, in one of the aspects of networking, you want to come to some level of agreement with whoever you're speaking with. And so one of the things I say is one of the things that we probably can agree upon is there's so much misinformation, so much confusion in the marketplace that we know that we don't know. But again, it's getting to that level of agreement. So it's how you shifted based on what is happening. And so, yes, I had to adjust. It's like when I started networking and I came across a guy by the name of Gary Rogers, who I'm going to be doing an interview with later today. And he told me, he says, you got to look straight into the camera. Most people quite often when they're on cameras will look down. Little things make a difference. He said, your lighting is not good. Your microphone could be better. Little things. So you had to adjust, but again, the foundation is still there. It's how you connect. It's finding out where to find the right people to connect with. Gary Halbert, one of the, he was a brilliant person. He used to say, if you want to catch fish, go where the hungry fish are feeding. You have to know where to find the fish. You need to know how to set the hook. You got to make sure that your net is working when you're networking. So, but the foundations are always going to be there. It's connecting with a human being. I love the title of your podcast, The Connectors. I mean, I hope you'll give me a copy of this so I can promote it so that I can help you drive more traffic to what you're doing. Again, that's part of the art of networking. Be there of value to other people.
Do you think that when people start, first of all, brand new to virtual networking, they should have a little bit of a mini class or some heads up to say, here's how networking works on the computer versus networking in person? If you're going to an event, you're trying to sell your products or services by giving out business cards or brochures.
Yeah, and that's part of what Gary Rogers does. I mean, besides the fact of doing like a free masterclass, he cuts a 1-minute video for you right then and there for very little money. And that way it's got your calendar embedded in. He helps you through it. I mean, if you haven't met Gary yet, he actually has been in the video production like yourself, Barry, for many, many years. He guided Moses or Charlton Heston in the film Moses. So, I mean, I checked him. When I'm saying checked him out, I did my due diligence because, again, he used to do a lot of work in network marketing for a guy named Clifton Jolly, which I've spoken on stage with for 20 years, twice a year. And they had done a lot of business. But he's got a group that teaches people specifically. But, there's an old saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Sort of like how you're teaching other people how to be better networkers. It's how we're attracting the right people that have an interest in relationship to what it is that we're doing.
And I like the acronym that one of the people at Al Wagner came up with, KLT. You probably heard of this acronym. It stands for know, like, and trust somebody. You got to go to know somebody quite well. Then you got to like them. And then you got to trust them before you go to that next phase, which might be wanting to do business with them, either a product or service that they have that you might be interested in buying or partnering with.
Exactly. And the best way to do that is ask questions and listen. I don't have a set of questions. My questions are all designed around the strategy of getting to know that person. And again, then I want to find out how I can be of service to that person, going back to the USC, and then think about from a collaboration mindset of what can I do we can look at collaborating if it's the right fit.
And I've also noticed on some webinars, especially Al Wagner's, he's with Alignable, that he said, this is a non-pitching, non-sales zone. He makes that point up front very firmly. He said, if anybody's caught pitching or selling, you're out of here, because he doesn't want to mix sales and pitching and say, oh, I guess network is about pitching and selling and whatever. So that's what he does on his
Well,
1 hour quick connects.
and I'm also in the Best Ever Social, which has a similar philosophy of, and again, you've got to, when you're at somebody else's events, you've got to stay within the parameters of what they do. But on the other hand, we're always pitching, even if we're not pitching a product. You're pitching to the point that, hey, I've got a platform, a podcast that I know, a person that I can introduce you to. That's a pitch. I know of I've got a list of 50 different networking groups. I really liked what you had to say. We should connect again. I mean, there's subtle ways to have a pitch without a pitch, but one of the problems that a lot of people have when they go to these groups, it's like, I do this XYZ. I can get you a website. I can get search optimization. I represent this health product, whatever. Those are the wrong kind of pitches. They're not branding. Normally, they're not branding themselves. They're branding another company. The other company that they might be representing happens to be a supplier or a vendor of that person. They should brand themselves.
And one thing I don't think that people realize when they do that is if you do that kind of pitching and you're trying to sell your product or service, even if it's very subtly, and you've turned me off, you don't know what kind of connections I have that I might have been able to collaborate with you, refer you to. So you've lost the connection with me because
Right.
you were high pressure selling.
Exactly. People don't want to feel that you're just there for the transaction, that you're just there as a commodity. Again, I came up with an acronym for pitch, which is PITCH, practice and perfect your presentation. It's the I is understand your intention. T is think about who you're speaking with. And the only way you're going to understand who you're speaking with is asking the right questions. C is clarity, clear and precise message. H, how and why they need to get back to you. But really the magic, and I said this earlier, starts with the one-on-one, and getting to know the person. On a breakout room, you got what, 2-3 minutes. You want to say something where people say, I want to get to know that person, and you set the appointments.
And one thing that I noticed that Al does on his webinars, he gives, I believe it's that one, he gives sample questions that are not sales or business related, said, find to talk about a hobby you enjoy. And you tell about your hobby, and another person tells about their hobby. So for instance, if they said their hobby is traveling, and well, that's interesting. My hobby's traveling. And all of a sudden you get, oh, you like to travel? I like to travel. Where did you travel to in the past? Or where are you going to travel to in the future? And I might mention, oh, by the way, when I travel, I like to shoot videos. I like to interview people. Oh, really? And then you get a conversation going. So they know that, oh, now you must have a video camera because you said you travel with a video camera, and you get some dialogue going.
Exactly. I mean, again, that's going back to how you're relating, how you're connecting, how are you asking the right questions. Travel's one good way. Again, I've gone through 2 million miles because United gave me a pass. So, I mean, there's obviously I can, and if it's appropriate based on the conversation, I'll bring up that. Sports. You look at my background, I got some very famous signed jerseys in my background. So again, it's a conversation starter.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't have to say anything, one way or the other, because people look at my background when I'm on a Zoom. But it's how you start the conversation, how you do the exploration, how you can accelerate the know, like, and trust. I like to go through that really quickly by focusing on them and being of service and value, listening to what they're doing, figure out the challenges, their pains, and figure out something I can do as quick as possible that will be beneficial to that person.
And I wanted to ask you too, have you ever visited or been a member, even a past member of Toastmasters?
The answer is yes. I believe that's an extremely good organization. In fact, when I originally met the lady that I ended up marrying, and I've been happily married for 36 years, that was the first thing that she suggested that I do. Because she could see the ums, the ahs, those mental pauses that you end up taking, making sure that you're able to communicate more effectively. Toastmasters is a great organization. Highly recommended.
The reason I mention that is because there's a fellow that actually wrote the foreword to my book. And at one point, he actually said, I'm thinking about starting a podcast, but I don't know where to begin. Maybe I look to you to see if you can help me. So now he has a podcast on SoundCloud called Powering Success. I think he's done about 10 episodes. And one of the episodes was the incoming CEO of the Worldwide Toastmasters. Wow, that's an interesting interview you had. So he was happy that I could give him some pointers or some fast track lessons on podcasting, and he's enjoying it a lot.
And think about the win-win that you did by being of service or value to them. You know, and you're talking about your book. I mean, early on, one of the things that you and I did is we shared our points of wisdom with one another. And I know that you incorporated some of the things that I said with you into your book. Again, being of value to the other person. In fact, talking about your book, because I know you're going to give me a copy of this podcast. Anybody that's listening to this podcast, you definitely want to buy Barry's book. I know that it's, you know, and as you mentioned, a lot of what a book really is, it's a business card. It gives you more credibility. I mean, there's multiple different uses of a book, but for the listeners that are listening to this, you definitely, if you haven't yet, and the operative word there is yet, purchase Barry's book, you need to do so.
And one thing what I did, as you notice on my t-shirt, when I started to write the book and I got a good book cover, somebody suggested maybe you should put it on a t-shirt or on a tie. And I happened to find a company that did exactly that. So I now wear around a tie with my book cover on it. And I've never seen anybody, some people don't think outside the box or think big, that has got a book cover on a tie. I might be the first one, and I'll be walking around to a big event in November with 1,000 people, and I'm sure they're going to say, holy smokes, I've never seen anybody wear a tie like you have on. You're going to get noticed, right?
Exactly. It's TMA, top of mind awareness. You're doing something unique and different, and it's an attention getter. And guess what? Chances are they're going to remember or want to engage and start a conversation. It's a lot easier if somebody else starts the conversation, especially today, you know, based on the fact that we're coming through, not necessarily through a pandemic. And when people, they're not as easy to start conversations with today, for the most part, as it was back 30 years ago. Remember, I started off with the 3-foot rule. And so I'm very in tune to people. It's like when you're walking, you know, on a sidewalk, when somebody's walking the other way, today people step to the, you know, out of your way. So yes, you can still engage them in a conversation, have the eye contact, but you can tell people are having that social distancing still today. So.
And this has been brought up in past events I've attended. Some people are more at ease in virtual network on a screen that they might not be if they're meeting 1,000 strangers in a room in person.
I look at, and that's definitely probably the case, but I think because of the fact that people are doing it so much now, they're much more comfortable. Going back to what Malcolm Gladwell talked about in his book, The 10,000 Hours, they've just been perfecting their skills. I mean, I love virtual Zooms anyhow, because number one, you save money on gas. Number two, when you go to these networking events, if you're like myself and a little bit on the compulsive side of eating, I eat more than I should. So I would much rather do, and I don't see myself really going back to the way that I did it in the past, because it's so much more time effective in the Zoom networking events.
So we just about 5 minutes left. So if you had to sum up and give some good pointers out to the audience, what would you tell them to do to start networking and not be afraid of talking to a stranger?
Well, you know, part of it is understanding why you're not, whatever that might be. And there's a couple different acronyms for fear. And chances are, if you're not doing it, it might be because of the fear of whatever that might be, which is, you know, it's face everything and, you know, run, or false evidence appearing real. I mean, the point is you want to face everything and rise, which is the third acronym of fear. Just continually do it. Going back to what Nike said in their logo, the more that you do it and self-evaluate after you've done it to see what could I have, what did I like in relationship to what I did, and what could I do better? There is no fail, because it's for all I've learned, the acronym of FAIL. It's all about luck, which is laboring under correct knowledge. You want to, improve your skill set. I used to say, if others could do it, so could I. The point in everything in relationship to the things that we do, it doesn't matter where you started yourself, where you started in life, or where you are now. The key in everything that happens is the direction you are headed and where you choose to end up. We can change the direction we're headed, but you have to have you want to make sure that you choose to end up in relationship to living a life of meaning. Because the more that we can help other people, you will live a very prosperous and fulfilled life.
And if people want to get in touch with you, are you on social media, or could they drop you a line?
Sure, both. I am on social media. It's Robert Butwin, Butwin. I always like to hit with my ending. My name's Robert Butwin. Just remember, with Robert, you do nothing but win. My email is butwin@gmail.com. They can find me there if they want to just book a time on the calendar to figure out what I can do to help them in relationship to what they're doing to take their success to the next level. They can go to my calendar, which is calendly.com/Butwin, Butwin.
Well, I want to thank you, Robert, for spending your time with me and giving good insight into how you got involved in networking, network marketing, and you gave some really good advice and techniques that people can apply and utilize. And I'll be happy to send you a copy of this podcast interview. And when I visit you in person, hopefully I will in November, I will bring you a physical copy of my
Sounds
book.
good. Barry, one other thing, put the link of where people can get your book in this video.
Yes, okay, that's a good point. So I can put that in the chat. I actually have a link tree
Yeah,
here.
but somehow put it right in the videos, or just
Okay.
or record it until, however you have to.
Okay. Yeah. And people can find your book on Amazon if they want to purchase your book.
If they connect with me, I'll give them a free copy. Plus, I'll open my vault to them of some other great information.
Okay, and then just send your email to that address you gave them.
Yeah, just set a time on my calendar. Have a
Okay.
conversation. I'll give them. I want to have a
Okay.
conversation with people.
Okay. Well, thanks very much, Robert. I really appreciate your time. And I'll be getting this published very soon. And I'll let you know when it's published. And it's going to be on 8 platforms because it's on Amazon, Apple, Spotify, Anchor.
Yeah, eight plus the ones I'm going to put it on.
Oh, and you have more platforms too. You're available to put it on. Okay. Sure. Okay. Well, thanks again. And you have a pleasant day, Robert. And I look forward to meeting you in person when I visit that area in November.
Sounds good, Barry.
Okay. Have a great day, Robert.
Same deal.
Okay. Thanks.
Goodbye.
Bye. Oh, recording stuff.